shortlisted for University of the Year in the Times Higher Education Awards. This is probably the most important awards in the UK, and to be shortlisted in those awards is a massive achievement for the university, and it really reflects what the university does. We're going to talk a little bit about careers in a minute, but overall this is what the university does. We have lots of rankings that we can give you. There's a couple here just to talk about. So 9th amongst all the higher education institutions in the UK for assessment and for feedback. So in the centre, this is something we spend a huge amount of time with students on, because obviously they need to pass, they want to pass, and they need to pass in a UK university setting. And it's the university was 10th for student voice in the National Student Survey last year as well. And when it comes to feedback, so specific in the centre, this is something subject areas. There are fantastic subject areas. So computer science ranked first in London and second best in the UK for the quality of teaching, assessment, and feedback. So once again, for all about the student in the national in the classroom. So and it is that student experience that we start in the International Studies Centre and then we move through to the university. Next slide. Okay, one of probably the most important thing around the University of East London, it is absolutely laser focused on careers and student careers. So this is not a university for students just to come to university. This is a subject area, the university which is steering students for their careers. And we do that from the pathway around the University of East London. International Studies Centre. That is the most laser focus. So the families you work with, the students you work with, they need to know and they want to know what the end of this is going to look like. So there's a picture of some of our law students in the legal classroom at the University of Stratford. But how does this actually work? Because we know that a lot of universities talk about careers. So the university from the get-go, the students have given a careers passport, which is basically their evidence from day one in terms of how they have developed their competencies. There are mentoring programs, there are volunteering programs. The career zone runs one-to-one career coaching sessions for the development of CVs, but this links exactly to our programs. So in our mental wealth modules, in our pathway programs, we have a whole raft of presentation workshops, and we have a whole raft of activities to help students in this area. We have external entrepreneurs coming in to talk with our students about their journeys and about how they have developed themselves. And as I say, the learning pathways we have are all about skills and industry. That's exactly what we do. So the careers part of UEL is why UEL exists. And so your students, the families sending your students, are going to know that we are setting them up for their future from the Pathway Centre onwards. It's not something that we wait until they progress to the university programme. This happens in the Pathway Centre.
Really important as well, because a lot of your students will be asking you questions about what will my graduate what's my graduate route going to look like in terms of working after I finish studies, what can I do during my studies, how can I get involved. And to be honest, a lot of your students are probably, you know, a little bit nervous about kind of being in a UK jobs market. They're nervous about being able to confidently present themselves, and that's where the careers service kind of comes in. But more importantly, like Simon mentioned, that's where that kind of careers-led curriculum embedded in every program, that's where that's important, because it's all about building confidence and giving them the chance to be a step ahead of students from other institutions and other people that are looking to enter the jobs market.
Because we don't have the career service on the side, it's part of the programs. And the actual centre for the career zone, which you can see on this slide there, it's the first thing you see when you enter the campus. So those of you who've had the opportunity to come to campus, we would love to see more of you. That is the first place we show you, because that is how important it is to the students. Next slide, please. Okay, so there's To do that, the Career Zone works with a huge number of companies. We can show you a huge number, but actually we look at the quality as well as the quantity. So HSBC, Canary Wharf, Barclays. Canary Wharf is 5k from our campus. It's very, very close. And so that gives the students the physical opportunity to visit as well as obviously the virtual. But overall, there are 2,000 employers working with the university in partnership with the university. 1,500 new graduate job opportunities are just advertised through the career zones alone before you even go anywhere else. And very importantly, there is an international side to this as well. So 25%, we're in the top 25% for international outlook, and that relates back to obviously the careers that our students are going to in the world university rankings. So this is the evidence of the success of what our students get up to. Next slide.
Yeah, the university take careers really, really seriously, and they're award winning. They won an award for the Career Zone at the Pi Awards last year, for example, because of this dedicated and passionate support of student jobs and student career opportunities.
Numerous opportunities. Okay, thank you. Okay, and then linked to the student experience. So we have the academics, we have careers, but we have a beautiful campus in Docklands, and there is on-campus accommodation. So this is safe, secure accommodation for 18-year-olds and over, and it is very reasonably priced. So prices are from £6,300 for a full academic year. This is amongst the cheapest university accommodation in London, and the fact that it is within a campus setting is something that students tell us every day that they absolutely love. We have not one, actually, we have two Docklands Light Railway stations, either end of campus. So it is really easy for the students to leave the campus and to go for their jobs, for example, coming back to the careers focus, and also for the fun and games they're going to have in London. But fundamentally, this accommodation, I've stayed in the accommodation. It is lovely accommodation. It's new. So there's a lot of new accommodation, shared lounges, shared facilities, and obviously individual rooms. The students continually tell us, and these pictures you see here, they are some of the accommodation is 50 steps from the International Student Centre, 50 steps. So even the latest sleeping students can get to classes on time. It's really, really important for the student experience.
I'm sure as well, there's lots of people on this call who have visited London before or have lived in London or do live in London. And the reality is that Thameside accommodation is extremely expensive. So being on the waterfront at all is a huge benefit and a huge bonus. This accommodation is on the waterfront. Like it couldn't, in terms of location, couldn't be any better. Really, really close to the sports dock, which is the student gym and sports facilities, really close to the study center, really close to the library and central services, including that career zone that we were speaking about before. And most importantly, linked to the price of the accommodation, that includes bills. So that's inclusive of their bills. It does not include catering. So they would have to pay for their own food on top of that, but does include their bills. And also, University of East London is one of the only London-based universities that has on-campus accommodation. Almost nowhere else in London has accommodation that is so central to where the student would be studying.
Okay, next slide. Okay, so now looking at the study centre that I'm very proud to be the centre director for. So first things first, the International Study Centre is right at the heart of the Docklands campus. It is based in the Docklands Library building, the building you can see here. So it straight away students realise they're here to study, but it is not an international study centre somewhere off campus or on the edge of campus. It is right in the middle of the campus. And our students have access to every single university facility, the student union, the gym, as Ashley mentioned, the library, every single facility. So you will all know that some university study centres have slightly different access than some other students, not at UEL. It is a very, very embedded centre within UEL. Next slide. And so what do we actually offer the students? So the middle picture here is our staff, is some of our staff. We have over 45 members of staff in the study centre looking after your students. That is why we are here, to keep the students safe, secure, and to give them every opportunity to be successful in their programme. So as I said, our students have full access to university facilities, and that includes, as well as our own student services team, full access to the university's student support team as well. In terms of how the classes work, we have student classes of 25 and below. That's how our classes work. It's very small groups. In those classes, as I mentioned before, we have lots of professional skills development, which is really, really important. If students are struggling, they will have one-to-ones. So they have a personal tutor, they have one-to-ones. Student support is not just about where to live, how to get round. Student support is around academic student support, and that is the most important thing that we are offering, because we need students to be successful. They need to be successful. So weekly tutorials with personal tutors. We do have guests coming onto campus to give master classes, which is really important. But when they're in the classes, they are going to experience lectures, seminars, workshops, the full range of classes that they will then receive when they go on to the University of East London. So it's very, very important we are preparing them properly. In terms of assessments, they will have presentations, they will have essays, they will not necessarily have a set of exams how students have been used to sometimes coming from home. And the most important thing we are doing is helping to prepare those students for the range of assessments that they are going to have in the university, and that's really, really important. And from the get-go, language support is key and central to what we do. So we help the students at the beginning. What we do at the beginning is we run a diagnostic needs and assessment to really see where our students need the most help with academic English and study skills. It is not simply learn to speak English, it is learn to be successful in an English classroom. And that is really, really important. And that is what we spend most of our time doing, is helping our students so they can progress successfully. And then I've seen the statistics, they are very successful when they get to the university, undergraduate and postgraduate. Okay, next slide. It is not all work though. There is a lot of play and there's a lot of overlap. So a couple of the bigger pictures here are of us taking students to events. So, for example, our hospitality management and business students go to events at Canary Wharf and Excel. And Excel is a very major exhibition centre very close to us. We also have a lot of fun in the centre. It is a steep learning curve for our students. We know that. So we offer a huge range of cultural events and fun events for the students in an events program all through the year. So students sometimes are homesick, sometimes adapting to the UK. We know it can be tough. We know it can be tough. London's a big city. We know that. And we are there at every step of the journey for our students.
Simon, can I ask you a quick question? Because oftentimes David and I and the regional managers will be asked, what is the difference between a student coming to study at an international study centre versus directly at a university for their undergraduate? What would you say the big difference is?
So the biggest differences are size of class. So international study centre classes are 25 and below. In the direct entry, you're going to have much larger lectures, for example. I think that's number one. Number two is the level of student support given to these students, because they are in a smaller environment. So academically and non-academically, they're going to get just a deeper level of student support. Part three, I think, is We just spend longer with each student, and our teachers and our non-teaching staff get to know the students much, much, much deeper, which is really important. And what we're doing is providing that springboard, right? So by the time they leave us, they should be ready for the university. But university, if classes of 300 is challenging when you are learning English and study skills at the same time. And we offer that soft ramping to the director.
Yeah, so it's about that soft landing and that additional support side. One more quick question. In terms of assessment differences between the way that we do assessments at the International Study Centre versus maybe how a university would do them at direct entry or at undergraduate level, can you point out what the differences might be?
Yeah, again, it's the ramp through. So in their university programs, eventually they may well do exams. We have tests, but we don't have formal exams. So it's a middle stage. But also, lots of our students have come from environments where they have done a lot of exams, and we are the first point. So our actual assessments are very similar in some ways to the university, but they are again that ramp. So we will test them via presentation, we will test them via essay and projects, whereas that's maybe not what students have seen before, but they will definitely see it in university.
And I guess for a lot of our education consultants on this webinar at the moment, it'll be kind of a breath of fresh air for them as well, because a lot of students finish high school by passing state or national examinations that are about memorizing information and just kind of being able to recite that information in an exam setting. And a lot of students don't really necessarily love that style of learning. So the good thing from what you're saying is that this means that they have a much more varied assessment structure. And also they've got this kind of careers-driven aspect built in. So everything, in terms of presentations help students build confidence and helps them with their communication skills and also presenting their ideas, which are all not just important study skills, but also important transitional skills for their future studies and for future careers as well. So I think that's really cool. And I have to say, it's so nice to visit the ISC and see so many smiley, happy students.
Absolutely.
And there's this is really a very small selection of images. If you don't follow the Instagram for Malvern University Partnerships and for the university, we really, really would strongly suggest that you do. Because you can get some really great insights into the day-to-day stuff that's happening on campus and within the study center. And there is stuff happening all the time.
Yeah, every day. Next slide, please, David.
Ah, yes. Oh, I wonder. Oh, Dave, you're on mute.
Haniel Artelles Escalantes. I'm from Cuba and I am studying an international foundation year in science. So having the opportunity to study at the International Study Center at UEL has been one of the greatest experiences in my life. When I first moved here, I didn't really know what to expect. But once I started going to my lectures, the seminars and the workshops, it all started to flow like naturally, and I really started to enjoy the whole experience. So the first time I knew about UEL was when I was looking for universities to study in the UK. UEL just popped up in my browser. I clicked the link and I just fell in love. I fell in love with the campus, with the facilities, the sport dogs, the fact that we have on-campus accommodation, the variety of courses that they offered. For me, doing an undergraduate course in the UK was a big deal because I come from a completely different educational background. That's why I chose to do the foundation year. I think it's been the best decision ever because now I'm acing exams in topics that I believed to be extremely difficult before, and I'm actually used to the UK educational system now, well, the university way. And now the UK university system does not intimidate me anymore. One of the things that attracted me the most from UEL was how much support do we get as a student. So the lecturers give us feedbacks in every step of the way throughout the semester. And not only that, but we can also attend workshops and book one-to-one appointment with academic tutors. Having the opportunity to learn in a multicultural environment is a unique experience. You have the opportunity to learn about many different cultures around the world. You sometimes get to try different cuisines. You learn words in different languages they have never heard before. In my own classroom, we are from 7 different nationalities, and it's just amazing. I'm really lucky to live on campus. I live on the East Halls. I have an incredible view, and the facilities are really good. I share my flat with these guys from all over the world, and actually they're amazing. We get to become friends over the past few months.
So we wanted you to hear from one of our students, because I can tell you everything, Ashley can tell you everything, but our students are living this experience, and you heard our student and the experience that he's having, and he is living at Halls. Next slide, please, Dave. So we've been watching your chat, and we've been watching your questions. Before I hand over to Ashley, who's going to run through more about the programs and also address quite a few of the questions that you've got. There was a question about how far away is the ISC from the main campus, and the answer to that is it's right in the middle of the main campus. So it's not far away, it's right in the middle of the main campus. So there's no distance at all, because it's at the heart of the campus. So, Ashley, over to you.
Thank you very much, Simon. And absolutely, the key thing is, and I think that video kind of sums up what we were talking about earlier, which is the International Study Center is, of course, partly about study and about preparing students for the university course, but a lot of it is around building community, making students feel like they really fit in, and also giving them that soft landing into UK studies. And that is something that will help them not just to prepare for the next year of their studies, but set them up really well for their time in the UK and kind of help them get over some of that initial culture shock and initial things that they will have to deal with as international students in the UK, and really help to kind of comfort them and guide them. There's lots of academic support, as Simon spoke about earlier, but there's also a lot of pastoral care. So a lot of time with staff really holding students' hands through day-to-day issues that they may come up, which, you know, we would look at, I'm sure all of us on the call would look at and be like, oh, those are not really a big deal. But for these students, because they are they're newly joining the university, they have no experience necessarily of living abroad, some of these things can be quite overwhelming. And that's why the staff are there to be able to deal with those types of issues alongside the student, help guide them. And so it gives parents the comfort of knowing that their children are being looked after in a way that they would want them to be looked after. And I think that's a really important aspect to what we do. But they will study while they're on campus with us, and that's where I want to talk to you a little bit about what we offer. So there are different levels of pathway program for different students depending on their requirements. So the first level of study that we offer are what we call foundation courses. These are basically the equivalent of A-level courses. And at the University of East London, there are 2 different types of foundation courses. There is a single CAS foundation year where a student will reapply for their visa before they start their main program. And those are offered in some subjects like business and management, engineering, computing and science, humanities and social sciences, and architecture. And then there are international foundation programs, which are to do with their combined CAS. So an ICAS, integrated CAS program, which means it's foundation plus degree, all on one visa. And there's those progressions exist to about 63 different undergraduate courses across the university. And courses they progress to are really varied across the different school areas, but roughly they're in the areas of business management, humanities and social sciences, and engineering and computer science. So if you've got a student that's looking for anything from hospitality management through to business management or marketing, or you have a student that's looking for something like biomedical sciences, for example. There are progression options available for those students. In order for a student to get onto this program, they will need to have an IELTS. So if it's for a combined CAS program, an ICAS, they will need an IELTS of 5.5 with no subtest below 5.5. If it is for the standalone International Foundation year, the entry requirements for English are actually a little bit lower. They would need a UKVI IELTS of 4.5 with no subtest below 4.0. And for a lot of countries, there are English language exceptions that can be made. So from India, for example, Nepal, Nigeria, so students who do WIAC qualifications, there are exemptions and students do not necessarily need to take an English test. But if they do, of course, everything is benchmarked across IELTS, I think pretty much across the higher education sector. University of East London is no different, but they do accept a whole variety of different English language tests. So if a student doesn't have an IELTS, but they do have, for example, a Pearson test, that would be accepted. There's lots of different alternatives. The key thing is when a student comes onto this program, they are getting quite substantial amounts of small classroom tuition per week, which enables them to gain the skills, gain the confidence that they need to be able to do well in their main degree program. David, could I have the next slide, please? The next start date for all of these programs is September, with the exception of one that we will come on to later. So the next level of qualification we want to speak to you about is the International Year 1. This is exactly equivalent to year 1 of a degree. And we're very pleased to be able to offer 4 different International Year 1 areas to students, one in business, one in engineering, one in hospitality management, and one in computer science. And it leads to a range of different undergraduate programs where the student would do International Year 1 with the International Study Center, with the ISC, and then they go on to year 2 of their undergraduate degree. The idea is that inside the International Year 1, they have those small class sizes, additional support, lots of pastoral care built in, but they have to achieve the same learning outcomes as a student does on the first year of an undergraduate program. So that means that students are basically walking into year 2 with the ability to confidently move forward, having had the time to ease their way into UK studies. Again, same English language requirements. So it's IELTS 5.5 with no subtest below 5.5. The same English language waivers exist for those students from those certain nationality groups. And scholarships up to £2,000 are available. Tuition fees, same as UEL's undergraduate fees, £14,160, with September being the next start date for the International Year 1.
And you asked earlier on, and we talked earlier on about differences between International Year 1 and direct entry. And this is where the differences really come out. So we are offering more English language and study skills within our program, but the students will be able to access Year 2 straight from this program. So that works really, really nicely. But it is a different program, and it is designed to help students just get that little bit more help in terms of their undergraduate studies.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point. It's all about that additional support and additional help for students. So the other key thing to note here is if you have a student that is minorly below the requirement for direct entry in terms of they don't quite meet the academic entry requirements, the International Year 1 might be a really good option for them. So it's basically a way to get into the university on Year 1 with just that little bit less GPA than what they would need for direct study. David, could I have the next slide, please? So those wrap up the undergraduate pathway options for students at the University of East London. The next options that look at postgrad entry are pre-masters, and we're very pleased to be able to offer you 2 different types of pre-masters depending on the student. So the first one we want to speak about is the pre-masters in business and humanities. This is designed for students who require a bit of an academic top-up before they can go on and do their masters. So this is for students who have either done an HND or maybe they have something like like a third class degree, and they need that little bit of academic uplift before they can go do their master's. This leads to programs, master's programs like the MBA, International Business Management, and International Relations type postgrads. And it is a 1-year program. So it's 3 terms, 1 academic year. Its cost is £14,970. And it really gives students who have got an IELTS level of 5.5 with no subtest below 5.5 an opportunity to come in, learn about research and academic skills, learn some additional information around things like corporate social responsibility and ethics, gain some additional academic knowledge, and then go on and do their postgrads.
And important to remember that this program has previously been known as the International Graduate Diploma. So just to reinforce this, so now we call it the Pre-Masters International Graduate Diploma, because lots of programs are called pre-masters, and students were getting confused that they weren't on the same program. So just so you're completely aware, that's what we're offering here. But as Ashley says, this is for business programs, usually, also humanities programs, and it gives them that students extra year of prep before, postgraduate studies are hard, right? So if students are coming from a background where they have different study backgrounds, this is perfect for students who need that little bit extra help.
Next slide, please, David. And that brings us to our second pre-master's program. This is really designed for students who are looking to improve their English language research and academic skills, but who academically are already qualified for their master's program. So this is the pre-master's it's the English and Research Skills pre-master's. The next start date for this is actually the spring. So we have a spring start date for this, and that will seamlessly lead on to the September start for the postgraduate program. So if you have students that are looking to bridge that knowledge gap, really learn about things like referencing, academic writing styles, critical thinking, doing things like poster presentations, putting together group project work, this is the course for them. And if you think about it, if you recruit for Canada or the US, you'd be looking at a 2-year master program. And that 2-year master program is designed in that way because year 1 of a master program typically teaches them some of these skills, and they do that alongside their kind of master's dissertation. With us in the UK, a master's is normally only 1 academic year, which makes it very, very tight in terms of there's no leeway. A student must be able to start their master's and roll with it. And a lot of international students can't do that because bachelor degrees in a lot of countries are taught in a different style, which means that students walk into their master's really unprepared for what they're going to face. This is where the pre-master's comes in. It is designed, and our academic staff at the International Study Centre are specialists in helping students to build the skills and the knowledge they need to be able to walk seamlessly into their postgraduate studies and not skip a beat.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we are doing.
So if you're counseling students and they're not sure whether a pre-master's is worth it, it will make a significant difference in how easily they are able to cope with the demands of a master's program, because universities are not messing around with these postgraduate programs.
It's tough, right? Postgraduate
really hard.
Postgraduate study is tough, and again, we are providing that balance. We're providing that just route through to the UK undergrad and, in this case, postgraduate studies to help students just be successful and linked to our careers work to come out at the other end with their degree and with the career that they want lined up for them.
Yeah, it's a little bit like, I suppose the best way to put it is, it's a little bit like not being able to drive, but all of a sudden being told you have to be on the motorway, and not being able to navigate your way through, and it being very stressful, and you might make it to the end alive and in one piece, but it's scary. This master's is effectively like the driving lessons they need to be able to successfully navigate the motorway. So it's designed to get the student from point A to point B in as stress-free a way as possible. In terms of duration, if the student starts their course in the spring, Simon, when would they finish?
So in April, they will finish in the end of July, and then they will go straight on to their postgrad program. So to answer your question, that's how it works.
We do not offer the pre-master's English and research skills in September. So the spring is the next intake. And then we don't offer it in September. We do offer it in the January though. So there's 2 entry points, but it's slightly different, which is why I mentioned it earlier, from what we do with the other pre-master's program, which was the International Graduate Diploma.
Yeah. So I think if we just have the last slide, please, David, and then we will go on to your questions. And thank you very much for the questions you've already raised. So that's me. And I really do. That's me. I really do look forward to welcoming more of your students at our study centre. It's a brilliant place to learn. It's a brilliant place to have fun for the students. Just a few pieces of key info, a few pieces of takeaway before we go to the questions. As we've said, located at the heart of the campus. This is not a study centre that's based somewhere over there. The campus is beautiful. The study centre is in the middle of the campus. Our students have access to all student facilities and support services, which is really important. There is a huge amount of academic and student support. That is what we really, really specialise in the centre, to help your students be successful. And we offer the single classes. And in terms of the programmes, it's pre-university under International Foundation, International Year 1, and then the 2 pre-masters programs. And that's what we run. So thank you for your attention. And now I think we come to the questions.
So just before we talk about questions, I just wanted to say as well, thank you very much to our education consultant partners who are on this call, who already send students to the International Study Centre. We are very grateful for your ongoing work, your support, and we are here to work with you. If you have questions, if you want to visit the campus, if you want to do any of those things, we're here to be able to help facilitate that for you. You can either get in touch with your regional manager, you could get in touch with David or myself, or you can get in touch with the ISC and Simon and his team, who are we are all here across all areas of Malvern International, Malvern University partnerships. We are here to be able to support you. And we could not have built, I think, what is probably the largest study centre in the UK. If not the largest, certainly the second largest international study centre in the UK without you. And so without your work, your support, and also the great referrals from the students who are at the ISC and the way that they communicate that out to their friends and other people who are looking to study, we could not have got to where we are today. And we're very, very proud. It wasn't that many years ago. We were a very, very small ISC.
And if you are in the UK, I was with consultants yesterday showing them around the campus. We love to show you around the campus. And from the centre team, we are very, very grateful to you, very thankful to you for your support and your interest in the centre.
So how do you get in touch with us before we answer questions and things like that? I will be emailing you all a follow-up to this. Also, thank you very much for attending today as well. Everyone who's attended, we will enter you into a draw. We have got 10 prizes for the UEL webinar because we've got excellent attendance on this webinar. So they will be drawn at random, and I will email out the information today as well as the winners. If you have won, the prize is a voucher. The voucher is for the place of your choosing. I would suggest that if you were in the UK, we would get Amazon vouchers or something like that. But we know that Amazon isn't available in every country. So we will arrange for that to take place. And again, thank you very much for your ongoing support. David, shall we pass over to you to go through any questions that maybe you haven't covered?
Yeah, so I've covered a lot of the questions that have come up during the chat, but we've got a few ones left at the end. There are some general questions, I think, around English requirements, scholarships. I don't know if you want to give us some general comments on that area, Ashley.
Yeah, so scholarships as a whole are not automatic for the International Study Centre. So that's important for you to know. They are not automatic, but you do not need to go through any additional application process. If you have a student who is looking and requires a scholarship, all you need to do is let us know by email. So you can let us know and we can get that scholarship allocated to your student. The scholarship value for the undergraduate pathways, so that's the foundation year, the foundation program, and the international year one, are £2,000. The scholarships for postgrad level, so for the pre-master's international graduate diploma, there's a £2,000 scholarship available. For the pre-master's academic English and research skills, there's a £1,000 scholarship available. So really, really easy for you to get those scholarships for your students. Just let us know by email. We will get it allocated. It shows up on the student's offer letter, and it normally shows up at unconditional offer stage. So when the student has a conditional offer letter, it probably will not reflect the scholarship, but when they get an unconditional offer letter, they absolutely will reflect that. So that is scholarships. David, there was something else you were asking.
English language requirements were a common question.
Yes, so we have got English language waivers available for certain countries. Not every country has got an English language waiver available, but certainly India, Nepal, as well as Nigeria certainly have English language waivers. For everybody else, the university accepts a range of English language tests. So they accept IELTS, and whether that academic IELTS, they also accept Pearson, they accept TOEFL IBT, they accept a whole range of different tests. Duolingo, though, is not accepted. And we also run an English language test ourselves on campus at the university. It's free of charge. And we run them at set periods during the year. I think the next ones start in March.
Yep.
And those are for offer holders who've got an English language condition. So they do also have the option of sitting the internal English language test as well.
And that's run by experts in English from Malvern, so from the centre, and we offer those programs with UEL, or those tests with UEL all the way through. So the next tests are the masters.
And those tests are exactly like an IELTS is. So they test all of the subcomponents, so listening, speaking, reading, and writing, and they are done online. So there's lots of different options for students in terms of the English language tests. David, any more questions?
Yeah, there's an interesting question here about what are the best skills students can learn during their course to help them with their work?
Very good question. Simon, over to you on this one.
So, first of all, listening skills. Listening skills are massively important because if you don't listen, you don't learn. Another thing that we need our students to come with is a real passion for learning, a real wish to learn during the year because it can be tough. And I think that's really important. So they need to be questioning, they need to be listening, and they need to participate. And as the program runs through, what we do is help them with the skills they already have. So they have speaking skills, they have presentation skills, they have writing skills, but it might not be complex English writing skills, for example. So we are taking all of those skills. So to be successful in the program, they're going to need to write, they're going to need to understand academic English, not just English, academic English, but they need to be able to listen and they need to be able to read well. So all of those skills, clearly we do that in the context of the subjects that the students are taking. So for business, it would all be within the context of business skills. But those are the sort of skills we need our students. And our students need to be taking it seriously. They need to come, they need to want to pass, and then they will pass, and our students pass. So yeah, that's what we do.
I think as well, it's really helpful for students. And if you have students that are maybe a little bit shy, that are coming into your consultancies for advice and things like that, one of the things that we notice is that students do well when they ask questions. So we want to encourage students to ask questions, which is very different from how students behave in a lot of high schools, where they feel like if they ask too many questions, they're going to be seen as stupid, or they're not going to be seen as being kind of proficient in what they're doing. We're
Recording in
students will
progress.
go through a pre-screening process, which means that they will receive a telephone call. It's a brief call. It isn't a credibility interview, but it is designed to make sure the student understands how they're going to pay for their studies, whether or not they have any previous visa refusals, and whether or not they can communicate effectively in English at least the level that you would expect to have a conversation over the telephone. These calls take place first, then the application goes through to the admissions team where an offer is processed, their academic documents are processed, and the student can then receive their offer. They can then accept their offer, make their £1,500 deposit to start their credibility checks, and then they kind of basically from that point forward are really closely managed by David and his team, who will help them every second of the way up to enrollment through the credibility process. So that means that they will speak to the regional manager, they will speak to David and his team, and they will go through what they call pre-CAS interviews before they're issued their CAS. In order to be issued a CAS, a student typically needs to pay 85% of their fees, up to 85% of their fees. It is outlaid on their offer letter. And each course, the amount they need to pay varies very slightly. But the idea is the remaining fees after that can be paid at enrollment, or they can be paid in an installment basis, depending on what works for the student. But if a student makes their full fee payment before they enroll on their program, which is the middle of September for the September start, they are eligible for a 5% early bird discount. So I would really encourage you to get your students to pay their tuition fees in full and take advantage of that discount. And that discount is on top of any other scholarship the student has received.
Fantastic.
Dave, more questions?
We've got, I think, one last question is all we've got time for. I think this is a nice one for Simon to finish on, which is what opportunities exist for students in terms of extracurricular activities, clubs, societies, community outreach? Be nice to hear what some of our students enjoy doing.
Okay, and I'm going to answer that question and one more question that I just saw came up in the chat as well, and then I think we're done. So the UEL, our students are full members of the Students' Union, which is really important. So our students have access to a wide range of cultural societies. So UEL has the widest range of cultural societies, to be honest, of any university I've ever come across, but also sports. So we mentioned very briefly about sports earlier on and clubs and societies, but sports are very strong in UEL. So the sports gym facilities are also in campus in a 5-minute walk from our centre. They were actually built for the US Olympic team in 2012. So they are built to Olympic standards. We have double sports halls. We've got 3 gyms in there, and it is huge in terms of student involvement. So student sports clubs are very important, but also the range of cultural and other societies. Linked to that, as I mentioned, we organise trips, and we organise trips both socially, but also linked back to students' courses. I just wanted to shoehorn one last answer in before we finish, which was a very good question I saw about off-campus accommodation. So not all students will live on campus for whatever reason, and not all students will have family. I just wanted to, so the university has a service that works with us to offer off-campus options. We also will help students around where to live. So we need students living in East London so they can get to classes easily. And we have a document, we have something we can share with you, which shows where students live. But we and the university will work really, really closely with students who don't want to live on campus to find good off-campus accommodation.
And Simon, just before we wrap up, what would you say is the maximum distance a student should live away from campus?
We would say half an hour, 45 minutes maximum. London is a big place. The other side of London can take a long time. So we have fantastic, so 45 minutes from us, we have fantastic trains to UEL. We have fantastic facilities, but we don't need it to be 2 hours away because that will not work. So thank you.
So again, just before we wrap up, thank you very much for attending. We hope that you have sensed how passionate and enthusiastic we are about the International Studies Centre and about the University of East London in general. University of East London is a careers-led, a careers-focused university. that offers a huge range of undergraduate and postgraduate degrees in many, many different disciplines, in addition to the International Study Centre programs that we run. And we're really thrilled that our International Study Centre programs feed into so many of the university's excellent undergraduate degree programs, as well as postgraduate degree programs. So just to wrap up, if you have questions, I think David has put our email addresses in the chats, and we will follow this webinar up with an email summing up all the information that you need to know, and your names will be put into the prize draw as well, and the winners will be announced on that email. So keep an eye on your emails. Thank you very much for registering today. It's goodbye from me.
Thank you very much for all your support. We love seeing your students. We love helping